Hello, everybody. I don't know how many people are out there. I see Debbie and Cheryl. Hello and welcome. I think we are live. Yes, 9 seconds. Okay, great. Um, as we're just going to start talking, and as people show up, then they can join in. So it is the last day of the Little House Readathon, and if you have just stumbled on this video, this is Lizzie Faye Loves Books, and my guests are Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf and Lindsay from Lindsay Reads, and we may have one or two others popping in as if they're available. And we're just going to have fun talking about what we read for the Little House Readathon and some Little House trivia. So the girls here were stressing out before we went live that they didn't prepare, and I'm like, it's okay, it's just for fun. But I do have a giveaway that I would like to give somebody out in the chat um, for participating, and so we'll just see, kind of how it goes. Kind of, I don't know. I'll give criteria once we get started, but this is what I'd like to give away. Little House in Brookfield, and Naomi, I have a copy of this for you too if you don't have it. But I have 3 of these now, so figured I could give one away. Have you read any of these, Lindsay? The Martha Charlotte years?
I read one of the Caroline years, the last book where talked about like a romance of Charles and Caroline. But ever since like last year when you were talking about how they were hard to find, I've been hunting them down myself, and so I don't want to really dive into them until I have the
have them.
and get
Yeah.
yeah.
So how are you doing on your collection? Do you have quite a few now?
Yeah, but I'm still missing like 4, 5, 6 of them. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, like the really hard ones.
Both of y'all send me a list of what you still don't have. I've been saving a stack for Naomi, and I was just saying in a video the other day that I don't know if you heard me, Naomi. I'm like, I didn't forget you. I've got a stack for you. I literally have like 12 duplicates right now of everything. But I said, if I'm going to mail a box to Canada, I'm going to get them all in there before I ship it off.
I'm in the same boat. I don't want to start the series until I have all of the series, because I'm going to be like, oh, I'm missing like book 3 and I don't want to skip to book 4 or something.
The one I'm worried about is Little House. No, it's not. It doesn't start with Little House. It's Across the Pudding Stone Dam. It's the 4th book in the 2nd series, which is Charlotte. It apparently is more rare, and you can't find a copy online for like less than $50, and usually it's like 80, 75, 80. So I have confidence in my book shopping abilities, though, that if I keep my eyes out, one of these days I'll find one, at a yard sale or a book sale where it's just like thrown in the pile, and I'll be like, ah.
Yeah.
All right, so Tammy is here. Cornflower Blue is Tammy, and Bobby Sue is here. Hello, hello. Anybody else out there? Just type us a hello in the chat. Let us know you're out there. So first, let's just go around and you guys tell us what you read. You don't have to go through all the Little House books you read, but first, just tell us what you read this week for the Little House Readathon. So, Lindsay, since you are our guest host for tonight, tell us what you read this week.
I read the group read, the On the Way Home, and then I also, good thing I had it right beside me, because I thought maybe you would ask. I read West from Home, Letters of Laura Ingalls Wilder, the San Francisco trip,
yeah,
the World's Fair in 1915, and then I read the I Remember Laura. It's a collection by Stephen W. Hines.
Did you read the whole thing? Because that's a big book.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You must read so fast.
And, yeah, there's a bunch of pictures and stuff, and kind of like a scrapbook collection in a way. Includes a lot of like her newspaper clippings from like the Missouri Ruralist and things like that.
Yeah, I have it, and I started reading it years ago when my mom gave it to me, and I don't think I ever finished it. I don't think I ever got all the way through it, but it's a beautiful book, and I'm amazed. And I think you told me you have read Pioneer Girl twice.
Yes, yeah. I read it when it first came out. It was like 2014, 2015.
Okay.
Right when I first got it, and then I read it, I think it was last year. So it had been quite a while. It wasn't like back to back or anything like that, but yeah. I was like, oh
goodness, the annotations and everything.
Yeah.
Wow. So I learned something today from a book I was listening to, that the Pioneer Girl manuscript has been available like at whatever library it's housed in, or you can actually, like before it was ever published in the form it is now, you could write to that library and have it copied, and it was like $100, but you could have it copied and actually have it and read it. I had no idea.
Like an actual like book in a way?
No, like just on paper. You would have it copied
Okay.
onto paper. It's a typewritten manuscript that I guess Rose typed for her mom, you know, when they were sending it out to publishers and stuff. Or, well, I guess she only showed it to her agent, who wasn't supposed to send it out because it wasn't ready, and he did, and it got rejected. And that was a whole thing that I learned a good bit of stuff this week from what I read. So anyway, but before I tell you what I read, what did you read, Naomi?
So I read On the Way Home. I had never read it before, so it was really nice to read it. And I actually really liked that my hardback had the inside covered the exact same as the paperback. So I'm like, this is way nicer and easier. So I really enjoyed reading this. And then I finished Pioneer Girl, which I was so proud of myself. My brother and sister-in-law gave this to me like 5 years ago. And so I actually powered through about 150 pages of it before the readathon started, because I was like, I am not going to have the time to read all of this in 4 days,
right,
along with everything else I wanted to read. So I powered through, and I left like 50 pages, 75 pages left for the 4 days. And I just finished those off on Monday because I was loving it so much. And I loved every bit of this reading experience with all of the annotations and all, even though that was really hard. I really enjoyed that. And then I ended up reading this biography, which was by Marta McDowell. And I really loved how this one talked about the wildlife. I think Marta McDowell is quite a plant lover, because this is the second biography I read of hers. And it was very plant-based, like the other one. But this one was really fast, too, because it had a lot of like full-page plant stuff.
Well, that's nice.
And it talked about, and it talked to like a lot about the different plant life that she would have experienced and the different terrain, and it had a lot of maps and pictures and all sorts of stuff like that. So very happy with this one as well. And this one was actually a great one to read after On the Way Home and Pioneer Girl, because it referenced those two books a lot, which is really funny, because I was like, I read both of those first and then this one. And it referenced Pioneer Girl's journey and limits, and also On the Way Home when they traveled a lot. So it's a good one to read after the other two, but really great biography. I really enjoyed it.
I love that one. When what you're reading like works together so well. So Lindsay, don't you read a lot of nature books?
Yes, I do.
So you would probably really enjoy that with the.
I'm already thinking, like writing it down.
On
my wish list.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's say hello to who all is in the chat. Picking up where we left off. Tammy says, I read Caroline, Little House Revisited, and also On the Way Home. Awesome. Wasn't that a reread for you of Caroline? I think she said it was a reread. Debbie read On the Way Home, and that was a reread. Very good. And Tiffany's here. Tiffany, it's past your bedtime. Are you sure you're going to stay up for this? I was starting to feel it, Tiffany. I was sitting here like an hour ago at the computer trying to do some bookkeeping and stuff for eBay, and I was dozing off, and I thought, I can't be doing that. I've got to stay up. Hello, great to see you. Storm is here. Hi, everyone. She's on another live, but we're in a sprint, so stopping in to say hi. Awesome. Very good. Very good. So glad that you did. Very good. Storm from Storm Reads, if y'all don't know, also has a channel, and she is hosting a readathon right now, the Retro Romance Readathon. I think you're participating in that one, aren't you, Lindsay? Yeah. And then Tiffany, the Beachbound Bookworm, is also a booktuber, and she, her and Storm also are part of the leadership in the Killing Time with Cozy's Discord group. So Tammy says both were rereads. Okay, awesome. Oh, hi, Kathy. She's from Birmingham. Kathy has been commenting to my videos this week. Thank you so much for coming by. She read On the Way Home, really liked it. Was that your first time reading it? Tell us, Kathy, in the chat, some other Little House books that you've read. Like, have you only read the Laura books, or have you read other things? Tell us. We want to know. Oh, Tiffany says, no, I'm falling asleep. I want to say hello. Oh, I feel so special. Thank you for stopping by. You can always come back and watch it later. Thank you so much for coming by. And so, yes, so Storm had never read any Little House books at all. So we were in a reading sprint over on one of their channels, and I was like, okay, your assignment for next week is to read Little House in the Big Woods. And so she thought it was interesting. Yes, it is very interesting. Very cool. All right. So, what I read, I should have stacked it here. It's close, but let me grab it. I did some audio and some print. I did read on the way home. I broke it up into three parts, not the 3 parts, but I just read about 30 pages a day to get it done. And I had read this when I was like a teenager, so I didn't have really much memory of it. And I didn't remember that it was, introed by Rose or anything. When I read it, I it was so different than the story that I don't know, it didn't have as much of an impact on me now. And I didn't remember that there was so much. I thought it was interesting about and we'll get into this in a minute, but just about how she noticed all the agriculture as they went along, because that was really why they were moving, and that was important. So it made sense that that's what she noticed. The other book I was reading in print, I did start Pioneer Girl, but I only got the acknowledgments read. But I said in a video the other day, well, and the introduction is like 50 pages. The acknowledgments is like 3 pages, and the introduction is really long. But I looked at it and I thought, if I just read 2 pages a day, I will just chink it away at it gradually. And I'm sure once I get into it, I will want to read more some days. But like right now in February, when I've got so many things I'm reading, and March is March Mystery Madness, and then April is Amish in April, I have all these things that'll prevent me from reading big chunks of it. So I'm just gonna, if I can just bite off 2 pages a day, I'm going to be happy. I have been reading the Little House Cookbook, and I started, this is a library copy. I would like to get my own. I started this on like the 1st or 2nd of the month with the hopes of finishing it before this readathon was over. And I have just this much left, but today was a super busy day and I just didn't have time to sit and read. Plus, whenever I do a video about it, I want to prepare a couple of the dishes and do some footage and all that. So Lindsay, have you actually read this? I know you said it's on your shelf, but
I this week just to see what was all those in there.
You were talking about Vinegar Pie.
Yes, when I reread the series years ago, they mentioned Vinegar Pie, and I was like, what in the world? And I just was Googling it. I didn't have the cookbook at the time. So I gave it a try, and it was pretty good. It was kind of like a buttermilk pie in a way, and that tang to it. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's in the cookbook. I didn't.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's on It's on page 197. So I just haven't gotten to it yet, and I'm on page 151. So yeah, it's got butter, eggs, sugar, brown sugar, flour, nutmeg, and vinegar. So interesting. And that's it. So yeah, that I thought it was interesting. One thing, the author of the cookbook, instead of saying like a pie crust or even pastry, she calls it paste. Pie paste. I'm like, is that like a regional thing, or is that like a historical thing? I mean, I guess that's where the word pastry comes from. Pastry. Maybe pastry is the plural of paste. I don't know. I never thought about it. Then on audio, I on Tuesday I finished this one. Can you read it? Can you see it? Too much of a glare. I'm not gonna say the title out loud for reasons, but
during my I'll talk about what I'm reading. I started that book today because of your video you're talking about. Like I'd never. So yeah, I forgot to mention I'm listening to that one right now. Audio.
I very much enjoyed it. It's raw, it's sad at times. Yeah. She did suffer abuse by her brother, of all people. It's crazy. And it's an interesting look at behind the scenes of Little House on the Prairie. And somebody else was saying, yeah, they weren't as wholesome backstage as they portrayed on stage. And I'm like, yeah, They sure weren't. But nothing really shocking. They're just human beings. Um, just being who they are behind the scenes and portraying a character on the set. So, um, I'm sure it would have disappointed my mom if she knew that the F word was being muttered, off camera, that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I did enjoy it. Then yesterday I listened to A Wilder Rose by Susan Whittake Albert. And I did do a discussion video of this yesterday. This cover is so pretty. I This for the Library Love Readathon. Chelsea, Voyage of a Time Wanderer. One of her prompts is to read a historical novel with a woman in period clothing facing away. So even though this is not a library book, I'm still counting it for that. This was a novelized, fictionalized account from Rose's perspective of her life, and I really enjoyed it. Rose is a totally different person than her mom, completely, or not. Maybe her mom is more like Rose than we know. We don't know. But because this book did make Laura as an adult seem a little bit overbearing, but I don't have a problem with that. I'm overbearing. um I've heard a couple of different places say that, between Laura and Almanzo, she was kind of the boss of the family, that old expression of who wears the pants in that family, that kind of thing, was, was probably very, very much true. But I enjoyed this. I thought it was good. And the author says that, let me see if I can see in the beginning. She says, A Wilder Rose is the true story of Rose Wilder Lane and her mother, Laura Ingalls Wilder, whose creative collaboration produced Little House in the Big Woods and 7 more books in the Little House series. It is the tale of 2 exceptional women, a mother who had a fascinating pioneer story to tell, but whose writing skills were not up to the challenge of shaping and polishing it for publication, and a daughter, a gifted and much published author who had both the skill to turn her mother's stories into memorable books and the publishing connections that would get them into print. Fortunately for us, their teamwork, complicated, vexed, and reluctant on both sides, has been documented in Rose's unpublished diaries and journals and in Laura's unpublished letters. Sorry, I don't want to read this whole thing, but I'm trying to get to the where, here she says, I have taken my own imaginative journey through the real events of those years. I have treated the real people as fictional characters and the real events as fictional events. I have chosen some storylines to expand and dramatize and omitted others. I have put words into people's mouths and listened in on their internal dialogue. I have invented incidents and imagined settings. In all this, I am exactly as true to the real events, settings, and people of A Wilder Rose as Rose and Laura were to the true as Rose and Laura were true to the real events, settings, and people of the Ingalls family's pioneer wanderings across the American plains. So you see what she did there? She's saying, this book is just as true as theirs was, kind of. So good. I enjoyed it. And then today I listened to this one, The Wilder Life by Wendy Mcclure. So I meant to come and find out when this was published. I'm wondering if Wendy Mcclure is about my age or if she's older or younger, because she makes it sound like, well, she started reading the Little House books. She was a huge fan of the Little House books, and she didn't even find out that there was a TV show until a couple of years after it had started airing. So she wasn't even really concerned about watching it. She was just a fan of the show, a fangirl. I mean, not a show, of the books and of just Laura in general. So later she did see some of the show, but as an adult, she basically went on a quest to see all the places that Laura lived, just, all the things. And it's just her story of that. the one thing I didn't like about it, she met some people along the way who were they were Christians, not exactly from a group that I would necessarily identify with, even though I'm a Christian, but they were like they were preparing for the end of the world, that kind of thing. And so her take on that, she was just kind of doing a little bit of Christian bashing, I thought, in her narrative about that family. She said they were really nice, but she basically described them as, off their rockers, that kind of thing. But anyway, I don't want to go into that. That was the only part that I was just like, well, she's kind of cruel to them, but overall, she her and I wouldn't identify eye to eye, on the faith standpoint, but on the whole Laura fangirl thing of like, wanting to visit all the sites and all that, I get that because I've been to some of them, and that was really interesting to see, just to hear all of that. And I think she went to the places. She's been to them more recently than me, and I've never seen any of the plays, like the passion plays and things like that. I would love to see some of those. But anyway, this came out in 2011, and it was in the 90s when I went and visited those places. Well, I've been to Mansfield twice, and one of them might have been in the late 80s, and then the other was in like 2000. So anyway, this was fun though, and I would say, for Little House fans, read that one. It was a fun take on just, a Laura Ingalls Wilder fan and everything that she's doing. So, all right, let me catch back up with the chat. Kathy says, yes, it was my first time. I read Prairie Fires last year. Of course, read all the Little House books when I was a kid and have passed them to my daughter. That's great. And then, Kathy, did you say, and I think a comment that you're hoping that your daughter will pass them on to her daughters, which would be great. I tried to get my daughter Katie interested, and she did read Little House in the Big Woods. I think she got a little turned off by the hog killing a little bit, even though she read it way before she ever had decided to be a vegetarian or anything. I think that part kind of turned her off a little bit, and she tried to pick up Farmer Boy or Little House, one or the other, and she didn't get very far. And this has been a few years ago now, so I may not be able to pass my fangirl legacy on to my daughter, at least not at this point. She could always read them as an adult if she wants to. All right. So Debbie says, I read that book a long time ago, and I forgot which book we were talking about, Debbie. Was it On the Way Home? You said it was a reread. Yeah, because back up here, she said it was a reread. So it was a long time ago you read it the first time. It's so easy to forget after time has gone by. All right, Lori, is it Bax or Bacchus? How do you say your name? She said she just started Libertarians on the Prairie, and the author says that Laura and Rose's relationship was strained. Yeah, that's usually what I read as well. The book also says that Rose is the primary author of the Little House books. I doubt she's the author. I think she did a lot of rewrites. She definitely took some editorial privilege, but I mean, I think the basic core stories are Laura's. That's just what I think. Maybe it's just wishful thinking on my part, and who knows? And I don't really care. I mean, they're good books, and we all enjoy reading them as a kid and reading them again as an adult. So, who is the author of Libertarians on the Prairie? Lori, if you're still here, let us know. I've heard of that, but I haven't read it. Oh, so Debbie's read it too. So Debbie is the one I said happy birthday to a couple days ago. Her birthday is the 7th of February as well, which is the same day as Laura's. Debbie said, I went to DeSmet to visit the house and the groves of Paul, Mom, Mary, and some others. Yes. Did you go to the cemetery is there where they're buried, the surveyor's house? There's quite a bit to see and do in DeSmet. And Kathy says, yes. I forgot what she's answering. Pass them to, oh yeah, that your daughter has passed them on to.
Oh, like her daughters.
Her daughters. Yes. I think she said daughters, plural. Awesome. All right. Are y'all ready for some trivia? So here's what I thought we would do. I have got this Little House trivia book. Oh, well, first, before we do that, let's talk about the group read on the way home. So one thing I read I think it was in this book, or I think it was in this book, because it wouldn't have been in the other one, in a Wilder Rose. I don't know, somewhere in something I read this week. Apparently some people did not like what Rose wrote in her part of this book. They thought that, like, the part that they mentioned was like when her mother couldn't find the $100 bill, and I can imagine she's frantic. I mean, that's the life savings, and she finally looks at Rose, is like, "Did you take it?" And Rose, says, "No, of course not," that kind of thing. I guess I kind of see it from Rose's perspective, but on the other hand, if you've lost something like that, it's human nature to ask everybody who's potentially, there in any given situation. It's not like she was accusing, she's just asking. It's like when the detectives are trying to solve a murder, they've got to ask everybody for the alibi, even if they know they didn't do it, that kind of thing. But I don't know, what did y'all think about Rose's portions of the book?
I liked them. I struggle with a lot of Rose personally feeling because of what I read in Prairie Fires a few years ago. Based on what I read in that, I felt like it was a very unbiased biography, which I really enjoyed. And so from what I read in that, I feel a lot of distrust towards Rose as a person and what she puts her finger in. And so reading Prairie Girl, I really enjoyed reading Laura's own words and having a non-Rose editor, basically, and having someone else put in footnotes. But I enjoyed seeing her little footnotes every once in a while in this little book. And I also liked reading her own words where she's not taking her own mother's stories and twisting them. Because last year when we read Young Pioneers, I enjoyed the book if I hadn't known it was a twist on a Laura Ingalls Wilder story. So I think that's where I'm kind of feeling like plagiarism with Rose. I don't really like that. I feel icky. But I really enjoyed seeing her own stories coming through with like her little essays on the front and the end. And then those little footnotes, I think, gave just enough context where I was happy with seeing those little things pop up. But they weren't too many for me. I enjoyed her little inputs, but I didn't feel like they were overwhelming the book. So I really enjoyed reading that little short but sweet journey of them, a little travel diary.
Yeah. In response to what you were saying about like bordering on plagiarism and everything, if you look at it from the perspective that some people think that she wrote Laura's books anyway, she's not really stealing it. She's just, writing her own stuff in a different setting. That's one possibility. I think it is in this book that it's discussed. The writer of this book, Wendy Mcclure, her take on it, I liked. I thought she had a good. She sort of looked at both ladies from kind of a different perspective, and I don't know. You just have to read it for yourself. But this book, I think I'm a little more sympathetic to Rose after reading this, because this is from her perspective and it gave me a different way of looking at things. Now, this title is kind of appropriate. I mean, she couldn't, according to that, she couldn't wait to get out of, the kind of country setting. She wanted to be in the big city. She wanted to live her life her way. She wanted to live on the, fast-paced world, and she didn't really like it when she had to come back home. I don't know, I should have prepared better, but I just feel a little better towards her after reading what I've read this week. And it doesn't bother me that she had input with Laura's writing, because she was a writer. She did know the publishing world, and she had connections. So I think without her being without Laura Ingalls Wilder having Rose for a daughter, there's probably little to no chance that these books would have ever seen the light of day. So I think we can thank Rose for that. As far as how much influence she had on them, probably a good bit. And I wouldn't even be surprised because if she typed Pioneer Girl, she may have edited some as she typed. So the actual Pioneer Girl manuscript might not be completely Laura's edition either. I don't know. I haven't read it yet, but I don't know. Did it feel true to form? Did it feel?
There were little errors.
Okay.
And there were also a couple things that towards the end where it was like, you can take this out if you want to, Rose, like in brackets at the end. So it's very much like unedited manuscript, which I totally agree about the books being a collaboration and needing Rose's polish. It was just like Young Pioneers, which is published by Rose Wilder Lane, but Rose Lane, like Laura's stories, or those ones where I felt like, I don't know, knowing backstory from other biographies, I was like, those kind of make me feel a little strange.
Yeah.
But I really do love that Rose had a part in those, like those core books that we needed her to be a part of, because I agree, without her, we wouldn't have had those books being published. And she also didn't have the polish. Laura didn't know the world or the right people in having that way to be edited. So
yeah,
I do agree completely.
Yeah. What about you, Lindsay? Any comments on that?
Well, I feel like this book talking about how Rose had influenced the West from Home book, where Laura's going to Rose's apartment in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. She mentions a couple of times in her letters back to Alonzo of sitting down with Rose and taking a couple days here and there so that Rose would help get together the newspaper articles for the Missouri Ruralist. And then speaking of like the controversy on who, like having Rose help Laura in starting to write the Little House on the Prairie series. In this book, there's a couple of interviews with people from the town and who knew her mostly as an elderly lady at the time, when because he's interviewing these people, I think in like the 1990s. So like people who like was working with her and what have you. And some of them were saying like they had heard, they mentioned how they were hearing controversy over who wrote the books. Was it Rose? How big of an influence did she have? Mm-hmm. And some of them mentioned that the club that she was participating in, I think it's Athenaeum Club, it seemed to be kind of like a book club. Quite a few of those ladies, because they were like get together and read, and sometimes she would do some of her speeches were from the Missouri Ruralist, things like that. And so anyway, so I thought it was interesting that they were talking about, even back then, the controversy of who started Laura on writing the series. But as far as like Rose's writing and all of that, I feel like if you look at like the Young Pioneer, like Rose's story, like she doesn't have the spirit that the Little House does. I really think it's a combo of the two, because if you read Pioneer Girl and then you read Young Pioneers, it's like that magic. I don't know, whatever it is, like neither one of them I feel like were strong as they were together.
Yeah, they definitely needed that collaboration.
They need each other.
Yeah. One thing I think in A Wilder Rose, it does talk about publishing, well, which was originally called something about the hurricane roar.
The hurricane roar.
When the hurricane roars? Let the hurricane roar, something like that. She talks about in here, like, of course, this is all made up. We don't know if this is the real deal or not, but she talked about wanting to just pull together some of the different stories, and to honor her grandparents, she would give the characters her grandparents' names, because then it said, Laura read it. She's like, well, no, this is not right. We were here then, and this is the wrong time frame for this and that. She's like, it's not supposed to be a true story. This is a fictional story, just with the elements. And she tried to explain. I just gave them your parents' names to honor them, as their memory. Whether that was the real thing or not, who knows? But that's the way it was portrayed in this book. So.
And in this how Laura was like livid when she found out about that story that Rose wrote, because Rose didn't let him know beforehand, it seems.
Yeah.
And
and that was before any of Laura's books were published. So, in hindsight, and one thing that was brought out, I think, in the Wendy Mcclure book is, how were either of them to know how easy it would be for us in the 2000s to find all of these documents, and how everything is at the tip of your fingertips. They thought this is just going on between the two of them and no one's ever going to know, but yet all these things that they wrote down, that's all a matter of record. So everybody knows your secret's out. But I'm not scandalized by it. I felt like Prairie Fires was trying to like make it this big scandalous thing, and I thought, well, okay, they helped write the books together, and Rose was a ghostwriter, and Laura's name's on it. It's not like that's not done every day in today's world, so it didn't bother me. But if it does bother you, then that's fine. I'm not trying to invalidate anybody's feelings on the matter, but just me personally, it doesn't matter. All right, let's see what Tammy said. I've heard all of this about Laura and Rose, and it kind of makes me sad. I prefer to wear blinders and love the Little House series for what they are. Fave series ever for me. Yeah, I have a little bit of that sentiment as well, Tammy. I would rather just kind of stick my head in the sand sometimes and just enjoy the books. So Emily's little book nook, hello. She says, I think she's the editor. Yeah, you're talking about Rose. Definitely Rose did some editing and rewriting and reworking and all of that. And Laurie says, Christine Woodside. That is the author of Libertarians on the Prairie. Okay, thank you so much, Laurie. And
I think whenever you get into the books of like a biography, you have to just kind of take off your rose-colored glasses especially when it comes to Little House on the Prairie.
Rose-colored glasses.
It's true. But you take them off, you get to be like, okay, I'm looking at this and looking at all their dirty little secrets or whatever you're gonna get. And I mean, I've learned some stuff about Charles that aren't really great, like he's a wanderer, and you get such a great picture of Pa. Then it's like, actually, he didn't really have all those amazing qualities, because you just see it through the eyes of his daughter who looked after her amazing father. And it's like, you have to remember, like, he's a normal man, like, and all these things. And this is the way it goes with every single biography you'll ever read about someone that you have admired since your childhood. So it's great to look at the series and just be like, these are wonderful childhood favorites. But then sometimes if you're looking at through the lens of a biography, just be like, taking off those rose-colored glasses and
right
protecting those for later.
Yeah, like I was just hearing a little bit more about Burr Oak, and I think that was where they moved literally in the middle of the night. They left town. Yeah. So it's like, whoa, okay.
The one town that's not in her books.
Hey y'all, it's Kevy. Hi Kevy, thanks for stopping by. Welcome there, Debbie. I don't know what you're saying yes to, Debbie. I already forgot. A Wilder Rose. It was the last comment before that, so I don't know, Debbie. I'm sorry. Naomi said hi to Kevy. Emily says, I think she was
that's
just
a money.
Huh?
That's in regards to the money.
Yeah, because she was pretty young then, and
yeah, I think it stuck with her too, because in a couple of different biographies I've read, it's mentioned like in every single one of them. So for sure, I think it stuck with her.
Yeah, because no one, you want to think that you're trustworthy and that your parents trust you not to do things that you're not supposed to do. And if your mom turns around and says, "Did you take this money?" She's like, how can you think that of me? But some people didn't like that part of the book because they thought that they were trying to make it, that she was trying to make the book about her and not, not about her mom. One comment that was made in here I thought was interesting of the Wendy Mcclure book, when she was at one of the museums, I think Mansfield, that there was, and there is, I don't know if y'all have been there or not, but there's a museum building that's beside the house, and it's just full of stuff. So there is a Rose section, and Wendy was talking about how, she's looking at all the Laura stuff, and then she eventually got around to the Rose section, and she said a lot of people, they would get to that section and go, oh, that's not about Laura, and go on. And so she was talking to one of the people that were working there, and she says, a lot of the Rose section doesn't get a lot of interest, does it? And she's like, no, not really. People just come here mainly for Laura. And they kind of had a conversation about that. And apparently the person who was working there was kind of more empathetic to Rose, and Wendy Mcclure states that she kind of is too. She likes her and kind of identifies with her some, and it was an interesting take. It was a whole other side of things that a lot of Laura fans don't really talk about. We kind of I think we sort of want to brush Rose under the rug a little bit, So Debbie says, I liked it. She was supposedly only 8 years old when they made this trip. Yeah. And Bobby Sue says, I've always thought of the Little House books as a co-collaboration between Laura and Rose. Laura had the memories and Rose the polish. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great way to look at it. And Emily's agrees with you. And Debbie agrees with you. Yes, very well said, Bobby. I agree. I thought Laura's diary was interesting, but not very polished. Yeah. And Debbie
could have little short blurbs per day. And I was looking at how she wrote them, how, because all the books I've read talk about how she had to be very stringent with her stuff, and how they're not really elaborate diary entries. I'm thinking she's probably writing front and back tiny font, trying to fit it in. So that's why I was thinking, one reason why they weren't as detailed or elaborate, as a normal diary entry we would see today.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure if you're riding in a bumpy wagon, it's probably really hard to write while you're going. And then once they're stopped, she's busy preparing meals and washing clothes and, taking care of Rose. And I'm amazed that she had time to even write what she did. And then to gather the information that she put in there, how did she know that land was going, if they're just passing through, how did she know how much land was going for in that county? And did they even have county line signs? She did make one comment about the next state they went into, was it Nebraska, how it wasn't as easy to tell when one county started and one ended as it had been in Dakota, because because it didn't go according to the rivers and the landmarks and stuff. But I mean, I guess they would probably talk to people as they went along, people that would pass by. And I'm sure Almanzo talked to people and he would tell her and she would write it down. And, but if I'm trying to get from point A to point B, I'm not always thinking about what's going on around me. I'm thinking about you just getting there. So the fact that she wrote anything, I think says a lot.
I really enjoyed seeing her. I really enjoyed seeing her diaries every single day. I felt like they were so detailed, and even the temperature, recording what the thermometer said every day. I was like, she's just so dedicated to this, and they're little snippets, but at the same time, it was every single day. And I actually went back and I'm like, wait a second, is this every single day? She's not skipping days or anything. And so it was just so interesting to see how dedicated she was to that little journal, considering how short of a time they were traveling. And I really appreciated that because it just showed how dedicated she was to, commemorating this really important event, I guess, for them, even though they were just traveling like everybody else.
Yeah.
And I also really liked how, at least in our copies, I hope you guys had the same thing where you had all those pictures along the way. I loved seeing, what the town would have looked like when they went through, or what it looked like, maybe 10 years after the fact. And it just looked so, I don't know, incredible to see how it could have looked. And it made me feel a lot more close to the material than sometimes it does when in little house books where you're like, oh, it's a far off distant land where these 3 little girls are playing off in the prairies. And it's like, no, this is like a main street, and you can see like horses and carriages and people walking, and just felt so real.
And some of the buildings on those city streets were much bigger and sturdier than I pictured that they would be at that point. I mean, I don't know why. I know that's not just like, wooden clapboard buildings, but I don't know. I was kind of surprised, but anyway. Something else I was thinking of. What was it? I lost my train of thought.
Well, I was thinking about how like the subject matter of like that you're talking about, like the acreage, like how much it costs, everything, and you can really see her background of living on the prairie, with the the farm lifestyle, and then her life goal in a way was to live on a farm and with Almanza and all of that. So you can really see her. She was like destined in a way for that. Yeah,
I know what I was thinking of now. Oh, go ahead.
They need to really know like the cost of every place, because like they were going to be purchasing land too, hopefully. So it was interesting to see like, this place is expensive and that place more expensive and that place is more expensive. And it's like, and they keep walking or, riding, and it's like, and they only have that $100 bill. And I just thought that was interesting to be like, and they keep hoping that they're going to get to a place where they can actually have some property. And it was, interesting to see how they kept talking about the prices of how big the square land, and then sometimes the land would be smaller, but still more expensive. And it was interesting to see that from a very historical sense.
Yeah, and they did it all without the internet.
Mm-hmm. Without Google Maps.
I know, right? You were talking about her diary, and it made me think, like, if she kept that detailed of a diary for that trip, did she not keep a diary any other time in her life? Because if she did, I would think it would be published by now. So it's almost odd that she kept that detailed of a diary just for that thing and no other time.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
Yeah, because surely by now, if there were diaries somewhere that were saved, they would be published. I don't know. All right, let me catch up with the comments. Where did I get to? I was going to read Debbie's. She said, in the big scheme of things, I don't think it makes any difference. They're just the best stories. Yeah. Do you guys know where we can read the original Farmer Wife articles Laura got published? And did Rose have articles published in newspapers? So, Emily, the book that Lindsay was holding up, can you hold that up again? There are some of them in there.
It's Stephen W. Hines. He has a collection that I read. I don't own it, but I read it years ago. Of the majority, if not all, I'm not sure, or selected works, I'm not sure, of her the Farmer's Wife articles.
But some of them are in that book, right?
Yes, some are in here as well. Yeah.
So there is another book that has all of them. Okay, good.
And Rose did publish articles. I just don't know which ones which magazines or newspapers she published with.
Yeah, it mentions that in this book.
Because there are several.
Rose. She talks about, when she needed money, she would just knock out a few articles, a few stories, and send them off and get money for them.
And it's kind of crazy to think that she would just be like, oh, I need money, so I'll just sell a story. And it's like knowing she'll sell a story.
Yeah.
Like, she must have been very good to have that guaranteed income if she just needed to sell a story.
Yeah. And Debbie says, our society nowadays is in a big hurry and we do not take the time to visit with strangers. Yeah, and I'm sure they did, because they didn't have telephone to just call home. So Laura wrote letters and would mail them when they would get places, and they would just stop and talk to people along the way. And that's how information was passed. I feel like there was there some place where it talked about some place where they were, someone gave them some newspapers that were like, where did I read that?
I can't remember now.
Yeah, I was just thinking how they're visiting strangers, how Almanza had to talk to people because he was trying to earn their keep in a way, money for the travel. He was selling those asbestos.
Those fire mats.
Fire mats. Yeah.
I liked those things. I was just like, that's so interesting that they like stocked up on those, and that was their plan to get through.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, let's see. Emily says all the factors she wrote about in her diary would have been a big deal, and growing up out of a wagon, she probably realized she would want to remember everything. Yeah, it's good that she had the foresight to write that down, because you think you'll remember and you don't. You have to write things down. All right, so let's play some trivia. So for everybody out there, here's what I want to do. I am going to, in fact, while you guys are like, I'm going to give you a question, and then I'm going to go back through the chat. I'm going to start writing down people's names that are in the chat. And for everybody who like continues to chat and throw up answers in the chat, I'm gonna like not keep score. I'm just gonna write down like who's participating, and everybody who responds and keeps chatting and like responds at least like 3 times, I'm gonna write your name down on this little piece of paper, and then when we're all done, I am going to cut those up into strips and put them in a cup, and I'm gonna draw out a name, and whoever gets drawn out will win Little House in Brookfield, which is the first book of the Caroline years, which is, Laura's mother. And this is a third copy. I have 3 copies of it now. One I'm sending to Naomi, and I have a third one because, in case you guys don't know, all the Martha, Charlotte, and Caroline years are out of print. The Rose years may be out of print too. I'm not sure. They're by Roger Lee McBride, but these books by Melissa Wiley, Maria Wilkes, and Celia Wilkins are not even on ebook. So we would love at some point to do a read along of the whole, what would you call it? The whole canon, I guess.
Yeah.
But a lot of people can't get them. So I've been on a quest to find them, as many as I can. And if you win, so is there anybody who's watching who already has this? If so, if you win, I'll find something else to give you. I've got other duplicates. So anyway, so I'm going to be reading questions from this Little House trivia book. This has questions from all of Laura's books. So I think in the interest of time, we are just going to do questions from Little House in the Big Woods and Farmer Boy. And I'll save the others because we might want to come back and do this next year, because we're already at an hour, almost 52 minutes. And I don't want to use them all up. So just to kick us off, though, to get started, I have a trivia question that I'm going to, this is regarding the Little House on the Prairie TV show. And I just found this out when I was reading Alison Arngram's book. For those of you guys who came in later, you might have not heard. The first book on audio I listened to was this one, Alison Arngram's memoir of working and portraying Nellie Oleson in the show. So I wonder if you guys know this, because I don't think I ever knew this. What character, what actor, I'm trying to see how to word it. There's an actor on the show who was the in real life brother of Melissa Gilbert. What role did he play? Did you guys know that? Is there anybody out in the chat that knows? You can guess. Melissa Gilbert's real life brother was on the show. What character did he play? Anybody else have a guess before I say if she's right or not?
It's been a long time since I've watched the show. I don't even remember many of the characters' names.
They are right. Yes. So everybody's getting it. It is Willie, who was Nellie's brother. Willie Oleson was actually in real life Melissa Gilbert's is Melissa Gilbert's brother. So I may have known that at some point, but she was saying that, and I was like, what? No way. That's so cool. I had no idea. Okay, so that's the only Little House trivia, Little House on the Prairie trivia, as far as the show. Between now and next year, I'll try to come. I did look up some questions. There are some quizzes online that you can take about the Little House on the Prairie TV show, but it didn't give you the answers. You have to actually answer them online, and then you get your score. And I thought, I'm not gonna do that. Okay, So, question number 1. In what state is the little house in the big woods? So, you guys in the chat, you guys go ahead and answer first. I told them on the screen to not look at the chat until you guys have had a chance to answer, and then they can answer it out loud. They can give their guesses without looking to see what you guys have guessed. And I'm going to start writing down names. So we have Emily's Little Book Nook. We have Debbie. And we have Kathy. And we have Tammy, which is Cornflower Blue. All right. You guys are the main ones. I thought maybe Donna would be here tonight, studio in the library. And Bobby Sue. Is there anybody else out there who's going to answer questions? Kevy, are you still here? Lori, are you still here? I'm just trying to get everybody's name down who's potentially participating. I think Storm and Tiffany had to go. Scrolling back through, and Cheryl probably was going to watch it later. Okay, so yes, Wisconsin. That's an easy one. You know, we got to start you out with something easy. Oh, I said it out loud, and I was going to let you guys have a guess. Did y'all know? You knew, right? Okay, I figured you knew. That one's a given. All right, this one I did not remember. What color is the Ingalls little house in the big woods? What color is it? Anybody in the chat know?
I guess it'd be cheating if I grabbed my book and looked, would it?
If you have it, just don't look at it until we. If nobody guesses, then you could look. You can.
I'll make an actual guess. I won't look.
All right.
I don't even know if I own that one. I've been slowly collecting them when I find them. But so I have like some of the series. But I listened to them on audio and I reread the whole series.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually physically read them, so I didn't need the books. But I only have, I think, 6. So
okay.
I'm still missing some of the actual main series.
Well, I see them everywhere. If you look at your used bookstores and stuff, do you not see them? Like,
they're not so popular here in Canada for some reason. I mean, I see Anne of Green Gables everywhere, which is probably the Canadian equivalent.
Yeah. I would say that. Yes,
that makes sense.
So far, one person has gotten the right answer. So, what do you guys have a guess before I say it? What color was? I
feel like brown's not the right answer.
I know. Same here. Like wood.
Obvious.
All right. Here's the quote. It says, "Once upon a time, ... So they've left some out. A little girl lived in the big woods of Wisconsin in a little gray house made of logs." So the logs, eventually turn gray with age. So. All right, so Debbie Faust, you got it right, although she wasn't sure she had a question mark. Good job, Debbie. You were the only one who ventured out and got the right answer. Number 3, where do Laura and Mary go to play house during the winter? I didn't remember this either. It's been a while since I read this one. I read Farmer Boy last year. I reread it, but it's probably been 4 or 5 years since I've read Little House in the Big Woods. All right, where do Laura and Mary go to play house during the winter? Let me take down Emily's comment there so that we can see you guys. All right, you guys have an answer before I say?
I have a guess.
Okay, what's your guess?
Maybe in the stable with the animals? The stable?
You have a guess, Lindsay?
I was thinking like the kitchen near like the stove.
Nope. 2 people in the chat got it right. Debbie says the loft, which is similar, but cornflower. It's Tammy. Tammy says the attic, so it is correct to say the attic. But the loft, I don't know if it was an attic or a loft, but you were close enough, Debbie. But Tammy got it exactly right. It is the attic. It says, in the attic, Laura and Mary played house with the squashes and the pumpkins, and everything was snug and cozy. All right, number 4. What are Laura's 2 favorite days of the week? This was interesting. I had completely forgotten this. And if you keep in mind, it's in the context of each day had a chore.
That's what I'm thinking of right now. That's what I'm thinking of right now. Which chores?
I don't know the order, though.
Me too. I'm trying to figure out what the order is.
I will.
I know it's not Sunday. I know it's not Sunday.
All right. Anybody in the chat? What were Laura's 2 favorite days of the week? You could say the days, or you could just say, like, what were the jobs that she liked the best? Tammy says, between all of us, we could combine our intelligence and win Jeopardy. All right. We've got a couple answers coming up. Give you guys all time to weigh in your guesses.
That first question really gave you like a false sense of security. I know. That was so easy, and all these other ones are
Wisconsin. Everything else.
Yeah.
Let me see how many questions there are. I think there's like 14 questions for each book. No, much more than that.
I think I have an answer though for this one.
Okay, so there's 18 questions. Okay, all right, go ahead. Let's hear your answer.
I think Thursday is one of them, if I'm remembering right from my book reading this week.
Okay,
it's one of those days that's like a catch-all for jobs, and then the baking day, which I think is Tuesday, but I don't remember.
You are very close to being right. What do you think? Do you have a guess, Lindsay?
I'll think Tuesday, Wednesday, but I have no idea.
What do you think are her favorite jobs?
Well, I think the baking day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't think
going out and tending the animals, like something like that.
Well, they
gardening day.
Yeah, gardening.
It was. Let's see who got it right here. Debbie. Wait, hang on. Let me go back to the beginning. So laundry day, baking. So it was not laundry. Baking is one of them. Butter making is the other one, or churning. So between those two, like Tammy, like you said, you put your heads together and we'll. So one day was Saturday, but not Sunday.
Sunday she hated because she had quiet.
Baking day was Saturday, and Thursday was churning day. So cooking and laundry, definitely not laundry. So Emily says, split the money and buy
Little House on the Prairie merch.
Oh, okay, yeah. Merch of books. That's great. Yes, that's cute. Saturday was bake day, and Sunday was the day of rest with lots of church picnics. Yeah. So you would think she would like that, but yeah, baking and churning were nice.
But Paul had make her sit there quietly and never laugh and never play.
I think that's why the kids didn't like Sunday, because they had to sit and be very still. They couldn't just run and play and scream and holler and all of that.
And then he told her like his story, like, in my day it was much worse.
Yeah. In this book, Wendy Mcclure talks about her experiences with trying to do some of the different things. So like she got a churn and made butter and things like that, because she was trying to have the whole Laura experience. All right. What is Pa's nickname for Laura? Oh, hi, Breezy Ann. Good to see you. We are playing some Little House trivia. Are you a Little House reader? Did you participate in the Readathon? The questions right now that we're doing are from Little House in the Big Woods. All right. And I am looking for the full nickname. You're close, Debbie, but you invert that. There we go. I shouldn't put it up before you guys have a chance to say it. This says, what do you guys want to say it? Can you say the whole thing? The nickname? My little half pint of cider, half drunk up. That's the full nickname. But of course, like on the TV show, it just got shortened to half pint. And that's what Pa always called her. Oh, yeah, there you go, Debbie. Half pint. All right. So Breezy Ann says, love the Little House series. Grew up reading them. Awesome. All right. So the next question is, and we may only do one book. We may not even do Farmer Boy. If there's nothing that says we have to do them all. What does Ma give Laura for her birthday? So this is in Little House in the Big Woods. And it's more than one thing. Well, it's okay, never mind. It is more than one thing. Anyone have any idea? What did Ma, in the Little House in the Big Woods, what did Ma give Laura for her birthday? A birthday spanking. No, Debbie. I'll give you a hint. It was something to eat, and it had something to do with how old she was. All right, you guys have a guess?
I feel like it's related to the incident where, like, the other child came over and wanted the toy or something. But maybe that's something else, a different book or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too. But I was like, yes, I don't think that's the right book.
I cannot remember for the life of me otherwise.
It was 5 cakes. The quote says, Ma gave her 5 little cakes, one for each year that Laura had lived with her and Pa. I had no memory of that at all. All right. Why, number 7, why does Ma slap a bear? I completely forgot this whole part.
Oh, I remember that. That was in one of my books.
Why does Ma slap a bear? Anybody know in the comments? That's funny. Scary, but funny.
And we were talking about diaries earlier. Like, I wish Caroline had kept a diary. I think that would have been really interesting. Like, from the mother. I mean, I know there's a book, the Caroline like novel, but in her own eyes and like words would have been really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think a lot of the information that was gathered to write the Martha, Charlotte, and Caroline books were taken from letters that, because I think all those ladies were probably letter writers. And so they were able, because if you think about it, when you're writing letters, you're basically telling what you're doing and what just happened and, what your plans are, that kind of thing. So you can glean a lot from that. All right. Anybody? Debbie says she was brave. I can't quite remember. I know that she didn't realize it was a bear, though. That's what Tammy said. You guys have any remembrance of that?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was a cow or a horse or something. Like, she thought it was a totally different animal, and then came up to it, and
you are right. She thought the bear was Suki the cow.
Yeah.
And then, so the quote says, then Laura said, Ma, was it a bear? Yes, Laura, Mom said, it was a bear. So she thought it was the cow, and she slapped her, I guess, to get her to go away. It must have been dark or something, and it was a bear. That's crazy.
There was a picture of one of it in my book here, which was really funny to see, of them walking out in the dark, no lantern, and a bear and a pen.
Oh, my goodness. If you could find it, show it.
I'm going to try finding it.
Okay. So the next one is, what is the name of Pa's big green book? So he had a big book, I guess, that he read to them from, or they looked at. Does anybody remember the name of it?
I just kind of saw it.
You saw it?
Yeah, I think that book is, the picture is in the Pioneer Girl annotated.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure there's a picture of it. Yeah.
I'm looking at the picture here. The cover.
So Kathy says, oh yeah. So Tammy says, wasn't it at night? Yeah, it would have had to have been. And Kathy says it was going after honey. So, Tammy, you're close. It was a book about animals. Do you have it there and you want to show us both the pictures? Give the answer to that.
I'll find it again. There it is. Is it visible?
That's not the one that's saying in here. That one's not green.
It says the embossed cover of Pa's big green book can set what's inside: people, places, plants, and animals. The Popular and Tropic Worlds by Dr. G. Hartwig.
Well, then this is wrong because this says it's called The Wonders of the Animal World.
Then this is the true thing.
And that's the true one. So we just stumped this trivia book.
And I bet that's what Laura remembered the title being.
Oh, so maybe
in the books. Yeah.
In the book, she said that was the title, but that wasn't actually the real title. It's that's what she remembered. Yeah. Okay. That makes total sense. All right. Number 9. Which dress of Moths has a pattern that looks like strawberries? I don't remember this either. Anybody remember that? So yes, Emily, you were right. It was a big book of animals. Something about animals. Good job, you guys. Very good.
I found the bear picture.
Oh, let's see.
I don't know if it's too dark.
Yeah, I can't make it out.
But I can't make out the bear.
What book is that in?
But
is that in the Mary
I'm gonna
McDonald?
break my screen.
Wow. Well, would you show us the cover of that book so everybody could see what book it's in?
This is called The World of Laura Ingalls Wilder. The Frontier Landscapes That Inspired the Little House Books by Mark McDowell.
So if you missed it and got here late, that's one of the books that Naomi read this week. And check your library. Anybody who's interested in that. My library has that. I have checked it out a couple of years ago. And here's what I have started doing. If I find that my library has a book that I really want to read and I can't read it right now, I go ahead and check it out anyway, just so that it goes on record that book has been checked out recently. Because our library, I don't know about everybody else, but libraries will weed stuff out if it hasn't been read in like 3 years or whatever. I mean, every library is different, but I figure, okay, if I find a book that I want to read next year, I don't want it to get weeded out before I get a chance to read it. So I'll go ahead and check it out for a couple of weeks, just so I know for sure that it's been checked out within the last year. And then that pretty much solidifies that it'll still be there when I want to read it next year. So that's just my little bit of advice. All right. So back to the dress. Anybody want to guess? Oh, you were right, Tammy. Good job. You guys have a guess before you look? Debbie, I don't think it's the dress.
Like a fancy dress that should go out with.
Which dress of Moths has a pattern that looks like strawberries? And Tammy says that Naomi just won us double points on Jeopardy. So Emily, I don't know if that was a Sunday dress or not. I'm guessing because I know in Little House in the Big Woods they talked about having a party, so it's what she wore, I think, for the party. And yes, Tammy, they didn't spell it like that, but it is a Delaney dress. It says Moth's Delaney dress was beautiful. It was dark green with a little pattern all over it that looked like ripe strawberries. So very cool. Good job, Tammy. All right. Who does Laura argue with at Grandma's house? This is weird. I don't get this.
I remember the scene.
Huh.
Anybody know who did Ma argue with?
No, Laura. Who does Laura argue with at Grandma's house?
I even remember why. I just need to make sure I have the right name.
So yeah, Tammy, do you remember the name? That's kind of what I wondered, if it was a cousin. Oops. So I got a cat in here making noise. Well, actually, he's been pretty quiet compared to how when he decides to yowl, he'll be very loud.
Yeah, I saw him behind your shoulder a couple of times.
Well, that's a different one. That's Sweetie. She's a calico. But Boots is one of our elderlies, and when he gets a mind to, he'll just start yowling for no apparent reason. So what do you think? You guys have a guess?
I think her cousin's name was Laura.
Yeah, you're right. So, and her name was Laura Ingalls.
Yeah, I think so. She was arguing. I think the book says she was arguing with the other Laura about whose baby sister was cuter.
Yeah. So you guys were right in the chat. Emily said it was her cousin, and I think you're right. I think it was her cousin. Her
they were
cousin over whose baby was cutest. And what were you answering no to? Oh, if you remembered her name. Well, so apparently, Tammy, her name was Laura. So that's interesting.
The Laura.
It makes you wonder if, maybe Laura was a family name on the Ingalls side of the family, like on Charles's side, and so both these cousins were named for like a grandmother. We didn't really know much about Charles's family history.
The name could also come from the Kiver side, because both of their brothers married. Like a lot of the families married into each other, right?
Like double cousins,
brothers married sisters, and all those things. So it could have easily been from Caroline's side too.
It could have been, yeah. True.
Amanda's sister was named Laura. That's why he called her Bess.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Very common name back then.
All right. What does Ma use to curl Laura and Mary's hair before they go to town?
I remember the torture I went through so we could copy this. My mom would do this to my hair with the sisters.
Anybody in the chat know? All right, we've got one guess. Do you guys have a guess?
I was thinking like
it's rags.
Yeah, Emily, you're right. It's rags. My mom would use old socks. They were basically rags, but they were long, so she could, it would twist around my whole hair, all the way down to do that. Or pencils. It's rags is the answer, but yeah.
I would say Kathy gets it too, though, because that's cloth.
What's that?
I would say Kathy gets that too with the answer of cloth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm not keeping score. I'm just, I want to make sure I have everybody's name written down. Okay, how many miles is town from the little house? And we're still talking about Little House in the Big Woods.
Nope.
Oh, I didn't read the quote about the rags. Well, I'll read it while y'all are guessing. She divided their long hair into wisps, combed each wisp with a wet comb, and wound it tightly on a bit of rag. In the morning, their hair would be curly. Yes, that is exactly what my mom would do for me sometimes. Not all the time, because I hated sleeping on it like that. It was so lumpy. So how many miles to town is it from the little house? Tammy made a guess. She says it's a total guess. Emily made a guess. Have any of y'all been to Pepin? I haven't either. It's one of the places I have not been to, and I wonder if the town has grown so that where the little house was is now part of town, or if it's still out in the country. Nobody's gotten it exactly right yet. Do you guys have a guess?
I'm thinking maybe 4.
I was thinking 5, but yeah, I don't know.
Nope, nobody has it. It was 7 miles. It says it was 7 miles to town. The town was named Pepin, and it was on the shore of Lake Pepin. All right, number 13. What does the printing on Laura's candy say?
Oh my goodness.
Anyone remember Laura's candy?
I remember her being mad that she had to share it or something.
It's a saying that we hear a lot when someone is giving candy. So I'll give you a clue.
My head immediately goes to like Valentine's Day. Like there's little like messages on the candy hearts, but
Yeah,
yeah.
something along those lines. Except it's a little bit long to go on one candy heart.
I don't have a guess.
All right, anybody in the chat have a guess? Oh, you got it. That I think they must have both said it because this says sweets to the sweet. So I guess that's what Mary said as well. Tammy, you are good at this. You are a Little House expert. All right, number 14. I almost read the answer instead of the question. What does the printing? Oh, okay. So Tammy, you may not be an expert because this says, what does the printing on Mary's candy say? And it is not the same thing. Of course, it could be wrong, as we know. But according to this book, Mary's has a different saying.
Still don't have a guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of years since I read Little House in the Big Woods, like 2 or 3 years. I'm like, I need to just read it. Be able to answer these.
Tammy, don't take this like Rosewood. I'm not accusing you, but are you having the book open right now? Are you reading out of the book? It's okay if you are, but it's just for fun. Don't rot your teeth. Don't rot your teeth. I remember it was a peppermint stick. No, it was a little sweeter than that.
Maybe it says brush your teeth.
Yeah. She says she thought it was Mary's. I'm just giving you a hard time. All right, you guys have a guess? This is also a very famous poem of sorts. A little bit longer, but what it says in here is roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you.
All that on a candy?
Yeah, I'm thinking like a block.
How big was Mary's compared to Laura's?
I know, it's a lot. Oh my goodness. All right, who is Clarence? And I have no idea. I don't remember Clarence at all.
Oh, I remember Clarence.
You guys know who Clarence is? All right, let's give you guys out in the chat a chance. If she had the book open, that would be a Nelly thing. Oh, I think Debbie is accusing Tammy of being a Nelly.
That would be a Nelly thing. Of course not,
but I do read the series every year. I'm just messing with you, Tammy. It's fine. You read the whole series every year. That's amazing. If I tried to do that, I mean, I know the children's books, but I'm not a fast enough reader. If I did that, I wouldn't get anything else read. But that's very admirable. All right, so who is Clarence? You can give part of his description as well if you want. He says, yes, I adore them. Tammy, have you read the Martha, Charlotte, Caroline years or the Rose years? Because we would love to do a read along of all of those. It'll take like a year to do it, but we've got to get a hold of the book. So I would suggest anybody out there watching who is interested in doing a read along of all of them, like starting chronologically with Martha years, then Charlotte, then Caroline, then Laura, then Rose. Two things. Start looking for them everywhere you're at, like a library book sale, a used bookstore. Start looking for them. I'm not saying you should go and spend $80 on Across the Pudding Stone Dam on eBay. Hopefully we'll be able to find them somewhere. And you can write to HarperCollins at publicity@harpercollins.com and say, hey, would you please consider republishing these books, even if it's just on ebook, so that my friends and I can read the books because they're out of print. All right, who is Clarence? So you guys want to guess first before we read?
I think he's the cousin who got thrashed not thrashed, because he was playing around while they were doing the harvest, and he didn't do the work, and then he ended up, was it getting stung by a bunch of bees or something? But he ended up getting really hurt. I think that's Clarence.
Yeah, I remember the illustration with the bees.
Yeah. And then everyone was like, and then Paul was like, well, it's his own fault for not working.
And I don't know if that's the same one or not, but so let's read the other answers. Emily thinks he was a boy from church. Tammy, oh, you haven't read any of the others. Okay. And Debbie said that would be fun. Yeah, so you guys start looking for the books, and they look very similar to the Little House books. So you might go to your local used bookstore and see a shelf of Little House books, and at a glance, they all look like Laura books, but you actually need to read the titles and the authors, because they should all be in the W's except for the Rose Years, because all the authors start with WIL, and they'll be right there together on the shelf. So start looking for them, start collecting them if you can. Like at a used bookstore and their kids' books, you might pay $2 at the most for one, and just start trying to get them. I have started, if I see any, I buy them so that I have duplicates, so that I can help people, fill in their collections. All right, back to Clarence. So this says Clarence is a neighbor that Laura plays with. And the quote from the book says, Clarence was redheaded and freckled and always laughing. So they don't go into the detail about any other thing, but he is her neighbor. So possibly was from church, and possibly was the one who got stung by bees, but it doesn't go into that much detail. All right, what do Ma and Aunt Polly put on Charlie's face?
Oh, so Charlie's one I was talking about. Never mind.
Oh, for the bees. Okay, so that would be.
It was definitely their cousin that did that.
Okay. So what do they put on his face? Anybody know? Anybody want to guess? Anyone?
I have a guess, but I don't know.
I'll give you guys in the chat a second too. What did Ma and Aunt Polly put on Charlie's face? Because apparently he was stung by bees. Okay. We got a couple of guesses. All right. I think that's all that's going to guess. You guys have a guess?
I think lavender.
What do you think, Lindsay?
Nothing specific. I was thinking like ointment, but I have nothing specific at all.
Nope, nobody got it right. Not even the chat. They said butter. The answer is mud. It says Ma and Aunt Polly covered his whole face with mud and tied the mud on with cloths. So the mud to cool it down. All right, we're getting close to the end here. I think we have 2 left. What does Ma make with braided straws? Oh, in the Wendy Mcclure book, she talked about doing that. She was someplace and one of the guides asked her if she wanted to learn how to make the braided straw. And she's like, sure, so she helped her do it. And she was laughing about, this souvenir that she brought home, this braided piece of straw. So what does Ma make with the braided straws? All right, we've got a couple of people who've guessed. You guys have a guess?
I was thinking a doll.
I was thinking that too, but then it wasn't the corn husk doll, so then it's not straw, but corn. I don't know.
It's doll related. I mean, it has something to do with it, but that's not the actual thing. So one person actually 2 people in the chat are correct. Nope, you are right, Tammy. It's hats. And Emily said hats. And then Tammy's like, now I'm doubting myself. No, it says here, straw hats. Ma could make beautiful hats. Laura liked to watch her, and she learned how to braid the straw and make a little hat for Charlotte. So she did make a hat for her doll.
Yeah. And for Emily's comment with the kindling, that was in The Long Winter when they took the straw and then they made the binding of it. They had to twist it.
That's
so
what I'm
it is of. Like that is another book, but yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of that she did, because I think Wendy's husband or boyfriend was like, "Well, what are you gonna do with it now? Are you gonna burn it? Or are you gonna take it home?" She's like, "I'm gonna take it home." So, all right, one last question for Little House in the Big Woods. What is the, and it's in quotes, wonderful machine? And the answer doesn't really have the actual name. It's a description of what the machine does. So the wonderful machine, I'll just start the answer for you. A machine that, what? I guess this was how Laura described it. All right, you guys have a guess? We got a couple people that guessed.
I'm agreeing with them at saying thresher, but I don't know how she would have described it.
Yeah, I was thinking something that cut hay.
Yep, you're right. A machine that threshes grain. It was the answer. So, yes, very good. All right, that is everything. All the questions for Little House in the Big Woods, and we have now been on here an hour and a half, so that's probably long enough. But let me show you some of the illustrations in here. I mean, these are just little miniature versions of what's in the book, but here's the, like, that was page 1. Get it in the front. It's a cute little book. I mean, it's little bitty, and I found it somewhere. I don't even know. Here they're having a snowball fight, but it's just this cute little house trivia. I won't look at I won't show you everyone, but there's, I guess, is that Laura and Charlotte. Anyway, oh, and there's the wonderful machine. The threshing. So thanks, you guys. Before we go, oh well, I got to do the drawing, but I've had this book laying here. This was, I sent a copy of this to Debbie last year before, because I had a duplicate. So I have still not read this one, but I had noticed the front cover. This book was talked about and referenced quite a bit in the Wendy Mcclure book. And she talks about how the family on the front looks a lot like the TV family. And then she mentioned on the back, and I had not paid attention to the back, but actually, hang on, I want to find the quote in here if I can, of how she described it. I probably can't find it fast enough.
I read that book last year, and I had like a hardcover edition.
This
so it
one
didn't have that same
this
cover. One? No, the paperback. Yeah, I read that book last year.
Did it have the same cover?
No, it was just like a white cover with some flowers. And then when I went to like mark it on Goodreads, I saw a completely different cover. And then I looked it up, and then so many people were talking about the back. And
yeah, okay. So here we have Almanzo. I'm thinking this was Almanzo, looking pretty hot there. But look at Laura's top. It is slit all the way down to her waist. That's crazy. It's like, what? Is this supposed to be, bodice ripper? Can y'all see that? I'm trying to get it where you can see it.
Yeah.
But I had not even paid attention to that. And Wendy Mcclure talks about this cover in her book. And I went and got it off the shelf, and I was like, oh my goodness. What in the world? It's just so funny. But yeah. Whew. Okay, let me get my scissors. Let me go get a little cup, and I'll drop these in a cup, and we'll do our drawing, and then we'll say good night.
But now that you're mentioning that book, I like the book you've been talking about the whole time with the pictures. I've been eyeing my bookshelf up here, and I actually own that book. I got it last month. I just haven't read it yet.
Little House on the Prairie one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I read her
Emily Dickinson books I have, but I haven't done it yet. for the Laura Ingalls shelf I have. But
I read her Emily Dickinson biography about her garden life and how that impacted her poetry and letters. And so I really loved how I learned about Emily Dickinson that way, as I knew nothing about her before. So it was a really great introduction. And then I put this on hold specifically for this readathon and saved it for, what was it, like 8 months at my library. Like, obviously the whole is waiting until then, but very excited to do it.
I don't know if you saw my comment, but I would love for you to be an official host next year. And so if you want to hold that thought and do your bookshelf tour like next year as a part of the readathon, as a host, you could do that. I mean, you could do it again. You could do it now and then do it again if you want. But
I could do it again. I'm always video. Like you were saying, I'm always looking for like the Charlotte, Martha, all those. And also, like, whenever I see a Laura Ingalls related book, I'm picking it up. So, yeah. I mean, I could do back-to-back years and have totally new things on there.
Yeah. Try to make them all the same size, so I can't tell whose this is. All right. I don't have anybody come draw for me, so you guys will. I've just got them here in a cup. You guys will just have to trust me on the up and up. So I think I've got everybody's name here who has been guessing. And if you get drawn, just email me your mailing address. If you already have it or you'd rather not give me your mailing address, just say in the chat, say, no thanks, that's okay, and I'll draw somebody else. But you don't have to don't put your mailing address in the public chat. Okay, I've got the winner, and the winner is Debbie. Happy birthday, Debbie. So yay, Debbie. I'm happy to send you another birthday gift. So I had sent her this a couple of years ago because I had 2 of them, and she's like, oh, it's my birthday, I would love to have that. So yay, Debbie. And I think unless your address has changed, I still have it somewhere, but you can email me, Lizzie Faye at LizzieFaye1982@gmail.com is my email address. So Debbie, you're the winner. Okay, good. I wanted to make sure she heard me in case she had left. So.
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to send the book to Lindsay? Do you already have it, Debbie? She wants me to send it to you, Lindsay.
I have that book. I have a hardcover. I was saying I had a hardcover edition.
Wait,
that's why I didn't know about the cover until after.
Of the little house?
No, she's talking about this. This is the giveaway.
Oh, I have that one too.
You have it already. Okay, so she already has it. Do you have it, Debbie? If you don't have it, I'll send it to you. But if you already have it, then we'll draw again. So let me know. Let me know in the chat right now if you.
That's really nice of you, Debbie.
You have it. Yes, that was very sweet.
Yeah.
And I already have a copy for Naomi, so you don't have to give her one. This is my third copy. She said, "Okay, send it to me." Okay. All right. So send me your email me your current address in case it's changed, or so that I don't have to go look it up, because I probably still have it somewhere, but who knows where it is. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up and say goodnight. Is there any other final thoughts you guys would like to share before we go? Either of you or anybody in the chat? Anything you want to
I just want to thank everybody for joining.
I'm glad you could come on.
It was really nice to join for the end of it.
Yeah, it was lots of fun to discuss Laura Ingalls Wilder again.
Absolutely. Well, let's everyone's wishing Debbie a happy birthday. Yes, her birthday was the 7th, the same day as Laura's. So thanks everybody for being here. Kathy and Tammy and Emily and who else was here? Lori, Debbie. Did I say people twice? Breezy. Am I leaving anybody out? And then, of course, Lindsay and Naomi. Thank you all so much for being here. It is getting late here. We started this at 9:30 my time, so that means it is like 11 o'clock.
Yeah, for you.
So, and my husband, I hope I'm not keeping him awake. He's in the room behind me in the door, and he's in at 5:30 in the morning, which is not his regular time to be in. So I was like, oh dear, I'll try not to be too loud. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining in. This was fun. Thanks for participating, and we'll see you back here again next year, if not sooner. Of course, we got a lot of things coming up in the meantime. If you are not already, for those of you watching, Naomi is one of the hosts of the Library Love Readathon.
Yeah.
So be sure to check out her channel and all of the other hosts for that. And Lindsay, what are you doing this month? Anything coming up? I know you're participating in the Retro Romance Readathon. And what do you have coming up on your channel?
Yeah, I'm just participating in those readathons this month. But for March, I have like all sorts of plans to participate in everything, if at all possible.
Yeah. My vlog should be coming out soon for the Little House Readathon, along with the Library Love Readathon. I'm doing them both together, so that should be coming out probably Sunday, I hope.
Awesome.
So I'll see my reading thoughts then if you check it out. So
yes, and everybody please go and subscribe to both ladies. Naomi plays a really fun TBR game, like with the game Clue, and does her TBR with that. And so you should check that out. So, and at least one person in the chat has a channel. Breezy Ann has a channel. Emily, do you have a channel? If so, I need to look it up. Trying to see if there's anybody else. Kathy, I think you don't. Tammy, I don't think does. If you do, correct me if I'm wrong. But y'all go check out Breezy Ann. She's in our Killing Time with Cozy's group as well. And Emily said she subscribed. Emily, do you have? You do have one. Oh, okay, awesome. We gotta look that up. Emily's little book nook. Very cool. It's always fun to find new booktubers, or new to me booktubers. How long have you been making videos, Emily? Let us know. Breezy Ann says, I love Lindsay's and Naomi's channel. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Awesome. Well, Emily, we will look you up. Everybody go and look up Emily as well. So, all right, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here. About a year. Okay, great. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for coming, for watching, for playing along. And for those of you watching this after the fact, I hope that you had fun as well. And as I always say, read a good book and God bless you. Trying to hang up, but it's not going